All right, so I went to go see The Wedding Singer at the Revue Cinema as part of their Drunken Cinema series, and I had a really good time. The Revue Cinema is basically this theater downtown Toronto in Roncesvalles that they kind of exist as a celebration of film history, essentially. They mostly play older movies, although they do play some newer ones that are currently coming out, but for the most part they're playing older ones. And Drunken Cinema is an event where they play like a more fun movie. You know, like I know for the Christmas season they play Die Hard, and now for February, Valentine's Day, they play The Wedding Singer. And this is an event where you're kind of encouraged to get a little drunk, get a little rowdy, you know, shout things and interact with people in the theater in a way. I would compare it to, like, you know, how people will still go see The Room, for example. It's a similar event like that. I had never been to an event like this, so I didn't know what to expect. But so I got there, and immediately they gave me a glow stick, and they also gave me this playing card here. I'll show it to you. It's got Robbie on the front, as you can see, and then on the back it says whenever the word Mary is mentioned. And what that is essentially, this is my personal drinking game rule, and everyone got one of these. And there was also like a collective rule for the entire theater, which was whenever the word wedding is mentioned in the movie, you're supposed to take a drink. And I think the drinking game is really more just like a suggestion. I think if you were to actually take a drink, like, do you know how many times the word wedding appears in The Wedding Singer? Also, I forgot to mention that you're also supposed to wave your glow stick around when this happens, like whenever the word wedding comes up. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, imagine you're in a crowded theater, and it's just like it's a dark room, and then you have everybody at the same time waving like different colored glow sticks in the whole room. It's pretty cool. But anyway, that's the drinking game part of it. I also, when I was there, I kept thinking to myself that this must be a pretty cool place to work, because there's so many things going on, like beyond just like ticket taker or like concessions, right? Like these playing cards, for example. Somebody's designing them, or at least they're contracting them out. I also noticed that they do a lot of pre-show material before the show, and somebody's got to be curating that. Like for this movie, they played a lot of music videos from the 80s to match with the film. I also noticed that they cut their own trailers, and I guess that's because they are mostly playing older movies, but what they're doing is they're advertising them as they're going to be played at their theater. So it'll be like such and such a movie playing at the Revue on this day. And I thought that was pretty cool. I think I would love to do something like that, you know. So that is the Revue Cinema experience and the Drunken Cinema experience, I guess. And I think, I'll also talk about The Wedding Singer for a little bit, even though I feel like you don't really need me to tell you why this movie is awesome. There was a woman who introduced the movie before it started, and something she said, which I really liked, was that she said that The Wedding Singer sets itself apart from other rom-coms because when Robbie and Julia meet for the first time, they immediately like each other. And I think she's exactly right about that. Both these characters are incredibly likable right from the start. Whereas with most rom-coms, the two characters take an hour and a half just to figure out that they actually like each other. I would also say that this is one of the most accessible rom-coms, because of Adam Sandler. He brings in more of a masculine audience, right? Whereas, obviously rom-coms are typically targeted toward women. He brings kind of a more crude side to it. And what you end up with is this movie that is both sweet and savory, if you know what I mean. And I think in comparison to some of the other Adam Sandler classics, I feel like this one is held up a lot better. I haven't actually seen a lot of those older ones in a while, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But I think to myself, like, if I were to see Big Daddy today, you know, or something like Billy Madison, I think I don't know that I would actually still like it. But going to see The Wedding Singer, even before I went to see it, I was like, I just knew that this one was still going to be good, you know? And, like, I figure I didn't even need to see it to know that. I mean, you could probably come to the same conclusion just by using your intuition. So that kind of wraps it up, I guess. You know, I'm really glad that I went to this thing. I think that for someone like me, I will say this: I don't usually like living in the city. Living in a city is kind of like, I just don't really get it. I live kind of uptown, so that helps me, but I don't really get the appeal of downtown, because everything is just louder and more crowded, and also, places look unwelcoming and shady, even if they're not shady. And then there's also places that actually are shady. And everything's also like 3 times more expensive. So I just don't get it. But occasionally I will find something like this. And I'm just like very grateful that I have access to it. And usually I don't think of going to the movies as a social event, right? But I went with a good friend of mine this time. And this is a movie where you can talk to each other throughout the movie if you want. Or like you limit it, but you can talk to each other. He also brought his girlfriend along, who I met for the first time, and she was a great person to share this experience with. And also, it was a sold out show, right? And people, it's not like you're having conversations with everybody else in the audience, but you are in a way interacting with each other as you're also interacting with the film. And for me, that fills up some of my social needs. And I know that I have a whole bunch of friends who will be down to do this kind of thing with me in the future. And that's all I got to say about this. It was a good time.